Ahoy hoy, this is Michaela from Team Retro, where we like retro games and we like the devices that bring them to us. So I've been spending a lot of time with these RetroFlag GPi cases, mostly because I love their attention to detail in maintaining that original Game Boy DMG form factor. And in my last video I showed you how to install RetroPie on a GPi case or a GPi Case 2. And I'm not a big fan of RetroPie because it's a pain in the butt to set up. However, if you can power through it, there are some great options for customization of the emulation station interface. And since my GPi Case 2 runs Recalbox, I wanted to do something nifty with my original GPi case, mostly because it's much easier to experiment on, but also because I wanted a retro handheld that was just very minimalist in design and was used only to house my physical game collection. So basically, copies of games that I myself physically own or have purchased through the use of a subscription service or a classic system like the NES or SNES Classic. And so that's what I did with this GPi case, and I created what I like to call a nice little minimalist build around it that's meant to just get out of my own way and make it so that I can play some of these games just by picking up the device. And at the same time, I wanted to try to eliminate some of the clunkiness of RetroPie, like the startup scripts, the odd error messages, and the weird loading screens. So that's what I'm going to show you in this video. I'm going to show you how to get rid of all the riffraff and the noise and get right to your games. So with that, let's jump right in and let's get started. So this guide assumes that you've already installed RetroPie on your GPi case and GPi Case 2, and if you haven't done that yet, then you'll need to go back and take a look at my last video because that gets you from 0 to a RetroPie install. And this video essentially picks up where that video left off, so go give that a quick watch and follow the instructions and then come on back. And once you do have RetroPie installed on your GPi case, you're going to take the SD card out and plug it in your computer so that you could see the boot drive. And we're just going to go in and we're going to make a quick change to one of the text files in the boot drive, the cmdline.txt. And where it says console equals tty1, we're going to change that to tty3. And then go ahead and save this text file. What that's going to do is it's going to eliminate the walls of scripts and text that show up when you first turn on the unit. And it's going to make for a much cleaner experience. And that's all we need to do with the SD card plugged into the computer. We're going to do all the rest of our tweaks with the GPi case turned on. So let's go ahead and eject the SD card and put it in our GPi case or our GPi Case 2. For this video, I'm using the original GPi case. Mostly because I'm happy with my Recalbox build on my GPi Case 2, but it's also easier with the Pi 02W to get internet access because my CM4 is not a Wi-Fi model. But if you have a GPi Case 2, you can follow all of the same steps. I still recommend that you connect it to power while you are working on this build. So now that we're all put together, let's go ahead and turn this device on. And you could see, due to the small change we made in the cmdline.txt, it now boots right into the RetroPie boot logo. We no longer see that annoying wall of text. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to change that splash screen that you saw when I turned the unit on for the first time. So let's go into the RetroPie menu and we're going to go to Splashscreens. Throughout this video, you're going to see some weird sound card error. I fixed that later on. Here in the main menu, we're going to go to Download RetroPie Extra Splashscreens. And assuming you're connected to the internet, it's going to download a whole bunch of extra splash screens that we can choose from. And when it's done, you'll get this OK prompt, and then we can go into Choose Splash Screen. And from there, we're going to go to Own/Extra Splash Screens. And from here, it's going to take you to that list of splash screens that we just downloaded. However, it does look a little intimidating because you can't see the entire file name. And you can't see previews of them or anything, so it's kind of a try it out and see approach. And I hear the Rookervik ones are actually pretty good, but the one I ended up settling on was number 202. It looked like it said Game Boy in the file name, and I kind of just took a gamble and went with it. And once I did that in the confirmation message, it did finally give me the actual file name, and it said Game Boy 4x3, so that's actually perfect because we are operating with a 4x3 screen. And let's go ahead and check it out. In the main menu, let's go to Quit and Restart System. And when it asks if you really want to restart, go ahead and click yes, we really want to restart. Again, we'll have that smooth startup without that wall of text, and it'll go right into the new splash screen, which looks a lot closer to an original Game Boy. I definitely like this look a lot better. And once we get back into the emulation station front end, we're actually going to leave the system on. But we're going to go back to our computer and we're going to wirelessly connect to the RetroPie interface from there. And here we're going to use the scraper application. I'll leave a link into the description to this application, but you're going to need a screenscraper.fr account. So once you've set that up, go ahead and put your credentials into this screen here and click validate, and then go ahead and click next. And for front-end selection, we're going to select RetroPie. And then from there, it's going to take you to a screen where it wants to locate your config and your ROM files. And because RetroPie is set up as a network device on our GPi case, we have to manually direct it. So type in //retropie/configs. And if your GPi case is connected to the same network as your computer, it should just say found. And then we're going to do the exact same thing for the ROMs folder, //retropie/ROMs. Again, it will say it was found, and we can scan, and it'll pick up all of our systems. And then let's just go ahead and click next, and then click next again. And that'll take us to the scraper front end. And there's a couple of things here that we'll need to change. Let's go to game list and make sure that's set to no backup, create new, or overwrite existing. Then we're going to go into the media tab, and from there we're going to add an images mix. So I'm actually using an internal mix, and I'm going to use a 3 images mix. And then I'm also going to add a normalized video. And we're not scraping the video to see it in the front end. We're actually using that for the screensaver. And in the output folder, delete the word media and the extra backslash. That just makes your organization a little bit easier. And then let's just go ahead and scrape all of our systems. And because this is doing it wirelessly, this is going to take quite a bit of time. So go ahead and grab a coffee or your beverage of choice, use the bathroom, maybe grab a snack. And then we'll come on back once this has scraped all of our systems. For me, the PlayStation systems seem to take the longest, but I don't have a lot of ROMs on this build. It's only a 32 gigabyte memory card. But your mileage may vary depending on what ROMs and systems you put on your GPi case. And once we're all done, we're going to go ahead and bounce back to our GPi case. We'll restart the system and just verify that the box art did download. And here's what it looks like. However, you could tell that this theme is not meant for this small screen. And also, if you boot into a game, you see this really ugly loading screen that we need to fix as well. So let's go ahead and tweak this stuff up a little bit. Back in our main menu, we'll go to RetroPie, and we're going to go to ES Themes. And that's going to take us to the Themes main menu. And from there, just like with the splash screens, it gives us a whole mess of options. But the theme we really want is number 78, Pack Dude's Mini John theme. This theme is perfect for the GPi Case screen, and it's perfect for the images mix that we just downloaded. So I already had it installed, but I updated it here, so go ahead and do that. And then exit out to the main menu. Here we'll press Start, and we're going to go into UI settings. And from there, we're going to set our theme to Mini John, and then we're going to make sure our game list view style is set to detailed. And once that's done, go ahead and back out, and it will automatically apply our new theme. And you could see right off the bat, everything just looks much cleaner and much easier to see on this smaller screen. And then if you go into a console, you're just going to see the game title and that images mix that we scraped. I'm already really enjoying how this build is turning out. Now we need to do a little bit of tweaking for Game Boy games, so let's go ahead and launch Mega Man and Dr. Wily's Revenge here. This was actually one of my favorite Game Boy games as a kid. And once we're booted in, we're going to use our RetroArch hotkeys, select and Y to get into the main RetroArch menu. And then from there, we're going to go into Settings, Video, and Scaling. And we have a couple options here. We could turn on integer scaling if you want pixel perfect, but I'm actually going to leave that turned off because it'll make the screen way too small for this case. Instead, what I am going to do is I am going to change the aspect ratio to 4:3. And that will stretch it so that the Game Boy games will fit on the screen. And let's go back to Settings, Configuration Files, Save Current Configuration. And then in the Quick menu, we're also going to go to Overrides and Save Core Overrides. And that will make it so that the settings that we changed will apply to every game that uses the Gambate core. And now you could see the game fills the entire screen and just looks all that much better to me. And then let's boot into another game. We'll go into Metroid 2 Return of Samus. And you could see here we didn't have to do any tweaking. We only had to adjust those settings once, and now they'll apply to every Game Boy game. And let's boot up a Game Boy Color game and do the exact same thing. We'll go into Settings, Video, and then Scaling. Set the aspect ratio to 4:3. Go back to Configuration File, Save Current Configuration. And then go to Quick Menu, Overrides, and Save Core Overrides. And we're all set with that. We've got our video configured, and Game Boy and Game Boy Color are really the only systems that you have to tweak to fit the screen. If we look at Game Boy Advance, we do have small black bars on the top and bottom, but it's not enough to make us want to stretch this out, and Game Boy Advance actually looks pretty good as is. And likewise with any console systems, NES, SNES, Genesis, those are all 4:3 systems by default, so you shouldn't have to tweak those at all. Likewise with PlayStation 1, it should just work right out of the box. And with a Raspberry Pi Zero 2 or a CM4, PlayStation 1 looks really good on these devices. We've got a couple more tweaks to do, so let's go in and set some favorites. So I'm just going through my collection and just hitting the Y button to add some games as favorites here. And then we're going to get a custom menu to show up that only shows these games that I've labeled as a favorite. So let's hit Start to go into the main menu. And we're going to go into UI settings, game collection settings, and automatic game collections. And we're going to make sure that favorites is checked. And then if we head back, you'll see a star here. And that's all of our favorite games, all the games that we flagged as a favorite by hitting the Y button. Now let's go back into the main menu again by pressing Start, and we're going to go back into UI settings, and we're going to scroll down until we find an option called Start on System. and we're going to set that to favorites. And now just to test, I'm going to actually restart Emulation Station. And once it's finished loading, it goes right into that favorites tab. So now whenever you turn on the system, it's going to highlight your favorite games first, and you could just jump right back into a game that you were playing. Now let's take care of the loading screen. So we're going to leave this on, and we're going to head back to our computer, and we're going to go to this post in the RetroPie forum that has some really nice custom loading screens for when you boot up a game. And these are much nicer to look at than the generic RetroPie loading screen. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom of the post, click the Pixel Runcommand Splashscreens, and it'll take you to the GitHub page. So go ahead under Code, click Download Zip. And then while those files are downloading, it should only take a second. We're actually going to go into WinSCP, and we're going to SSH into our Pi. We'll need the IP address as well as the username Pi and the password Raspberry. And once you're in, go all the way back to the root, and you're going to go to OPT, and then RetroPie, and then configs. You see there's a whole bunch of different system files here. So now let's go ahead and unzip the Splashscreens that we downloaded. And then we could go ahead back to WinSCP and navigate to our downloads folder on the left side and click the subfolders until you see that exact same folder list. And each of these folders has one file, a launching.png. So we need to simply drag every single folder from the left to the right, and those PNG files will simply copy over. And they're only image files, so even though we're FTPing in, it shouldn't take that long for them to copy over. Back on our GPi case, we're going to go into the RetroPie settings, and we're going to go into RetroPie setup. And it's going to take a second or so to get into the main menu. But once we get into that main menu, we're going to go into configuration/tools. And just remember, in these menus, we need to use up and down, and we need to use left and right to actually confirm. You use right to select OK, and you use B to confirm. We're going to go into Runcommand. And option number 2 in Runcommand is Launch Menu Art, and it's currently disabled. So let's go in and change that to enabled. And when we're done, we'll go back to the Setup main menu, and we're going to perform a reboot. And we're going to go ahead and let the system reboot. There's that clean interface with no text, which goes right into our splash screen. And the reason I'm showing you this is because when I did perform the reboot, it scared me for a second and it wasn't recognizing any of the GPi Case's inputs. So if this actually happens to you, you can go ahead and just shut off the system and turn it back on manually, and everything will work fine. So we're going to do that now, and it was just a little hiccup in the way I chose to reboot the system. Once I did a manual shut off and turned it back on, everything was fine, and I was able to use the GPi Case's inputs again. And now let's go ahead and go into Game Boy Dr. Mario, and you're going to see that there is a much nicer loading screen in place. And it's a lot cleaner, and it really does make the system look nicer. Alright, that sound error that you've been seeing throughout the video went away when I actually went into my sound settings and made sure the audio was set to default, the audio device was set to headphone, and the OMX player was set to local. So if you are getting that sound error as well, that's probably the best way to fix it. But your mileage may vary as far as that goes. Another thing that I did once I was done with all my tweaking is I actually went into my Wi-Fi settings and I disconnected and removed my Wi-Fi configuration, because on the GPi Case 1, that does tend to cause problems when it comes to audio. You do hear noises. And finally, earlier in the video, we downloaded those normalized videos for the screensaver. So let's go into the screensaver settings, pressing start and going into UI settings, and under screensaver settings we're just going to make sure it's set to random video, and after that the rest of the settings are optional if you want to change how long until the screensaver goes on, or if you want the game audio to play. But now when you go into the screensaver, instead of it just dimming the screen, you actually now get these video previews of the games that are on your device. And if you press B to back out, it'll just take you back to the menu. But if you press start, it will actually boot you into that game, which is just another nifty little tweak that this device can do with RetroPie serving as the front end. Alright, we've done a lot of work over the course of 2 videos, but now we have this great RetroPie build that, in my opinion, looks really beautiful and cuts a lot of the nonsense out of the way. And after I ran through and did this build, I actually found myself using my original GPi case more than I used to. It's amazing how something as simple as a user interface will make you want to play on a device more. So hopefully this video helped breathe new life into your GPi case as well, if it's just been sitting in a drawer hanging out somewhere. But that'll do it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions or thoughts, please leave them in the comments below, and feel free to continue the conversation in the Budget Aquaman Discord. Link is in the description. Again, thank you for watching, and if this video was helpful to you in any way, please be sure to like and subscribe. Until next time, bye for now, and don't stop believing.